In a world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes, an elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad, our ongoing investigation into films adapted from the works of Stephen King, or in this case, very loosely somewhat connected to things inferred from the novel that Stephen King wrote years ago. I'm John.
Excellent summation.
Yeah, I'm John Campbell. That's my partner, Eliott Lewis. And this is our season finale.
Get your bell bottoms and your porn stash. We're going to 1969.
It's 1969, baby. And boy, do you feel it. They really had the budget and the vision to realize it fully.
Budget is definitely one of the things they had.
Man, we were just talking before this. What a way to end this season. It just happened to be that this is the most recent thing that's as we're doing this. But yes, this is 2023's, right?
Yeah.
Pet Sematary, Bloodlines.
Bloodlines.
God. Boy, oh boy.
And talk about a subtitle that I wish had less to do with the movie.
Yeah, it's not. I will say, like you read that like a lot of sequels and go like, is that really gonna matter? Sadly, yes.
Yeah, I wish to God it hadn't mattered.
Jeez,
they're doing so much, and for what?
Oh God, I mean, yeah, this is a perfect example of a movie that's doing way too much to no impact. I mean, truly. Here's the thing about this movie, and we were talking beforehand. Neither one of us fans of this movie. Rip that Bandit up. And also, though, we're not alone. I've seen almost unanimously negative reaction to this movie.
John, as a spoiler alert for one of our segments at the end, were there even any 10-star reviews for this film?
No, I have a 9-star.
Yeah, that's about what I thought.
I have one 9-star review, and even it's faint praise. Yeah. So, yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, that was the best I could do. The highest rating I could find was a single 9-star review. But even, anyway, yeah, I know that person's delusional, even though they're actually still still fairly critical. Yeah, Pet Sematary Bloodlines, this is kind of, this is interesting because this is kind of where this show started for me in creating these things. In doing this show, a lot of this stemmed from when we were doing the action shelf. Lisman and I would find all these movies that had like an insane number of sequels you were unaware of. And so far, because we started in Stephen King, we haven't really run into it. This is the first one I felt that's really like, oh God, the just bleeding the stone dry, drawing blood from the stone kind of, not straight to video, but of course now we're in the straight to streaming. This was a Paramount Plus original. And Jesus, because from what I gather, in what little I can find about the background of this movie, this was made with an eye towards theatrical, and then at some point they went, just put it on streaming. And I see why.
Very, very in the realm of straight to video or straight to DVD.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like this is actually even below what most like streaming original movies are. This is This thing is a shameless cash grab. Oh, boy. Yikes. I don't even know where to begin on this thing. Yeah. 2023's Pet Sematary. It is a prequel to specifically the 2019 movie.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
seems
clips
to
from
be what they're going for.
The beginning has a needless inclusion of the church, the cat from the 2019 movie. Although trying to imagine this guy becoming John Lithgow is insane.
Yeah. Like he must have he must have learned gravitas in the 50 years
Yeah,
between the two
man. Well, I
movies.
mean, right off the bat, I gotta say, every single character in this is so dull and uninteresting.
Yeah.
There is not and there are good actors in this, but incapable of giving good performances in this movie.
Yeah.
I think Henry Thomas is trying. David Duchovny is on Ambien.
Yeah.
I,
He is floating
Oh boy,
through the
he
scenes.
he really is, man. I don't know. Did he need a beach house or something? Why is Duchovny in this thing? Man, oh man. And they really sold it on him too. And he spoiled not in the movie that much. But even that was. I think I talked about that last week when we said we were going to do this. I was like, well, I don't know about a Pet Sematary prequel, but if Duchovny's in it, I love that guy, and I do love that guy, and I still love that guy because this movie rolls off his back.
I mean, right? Like that's the thing is like I probably would have forgotten that this movie had been made in like the next like 6 to 8 months if we hadn't watched this.
Yeah, because neither one of us had seen this coming in. I was not running to watch this regardless.
No.
I figured I would probably watch it at some point anyway, and then this podcast sort of became that reason. But yeah, man, I mean, this is almost a perfect encapsulation of the shameless cash grab prequel, which automatically is worse than a sequel. And it's always the thing with these, right? These prequels are like, why? And here's a perfect example of a movie that I still don't know why. What is the point of telling this story?
Right? Like because the inherent flaw of any prequel is that the events of the story being told cannot in any meaningful way
Right.
like change the outcome of what the audience already presumably knows. And so you have to work really hard to
Yeah.
make it interesting and compelling.
Yep.
And again, spoiler alert, this movie does not really do that at all.
Not at all. My God. It's, I mean, I was describing this to somebody and going, this thing is a slog at 87 minutes.
Most excruciating 87 minutes, 87, 84, whatever minutes of my
Yeah,
life.
I think it's the shortest movie we've watched, but my God, it was so hard. You were talking about whether or not you're having trouble paying attention. I had the same thing. The whole last section of the movie, I was like, oh, wait, I wasn't even looking at anything specifically, but just my mind wanted to, oh, God, this Pet Sematary movie is still happening. Is still going on somehow. Yeah, no, it really does speak to a quote I use all the time from the great Roger Ebert, who talked about, no good movie is too long, no bad movie is short enough. Mm-hmm. Dead on for that one here. Absolutely, this is that case. But yeah, no, that and also to quote somebody else I love, my good friend Ibrahim Mustafa. I can't remember if he said this on the show or not, or just to me in general. The problem with prequels is, do you want to see the story you love before all the cool shit happened?
Exactly, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that is always, yeah, as you're talking about, that is and there are some that are able to do that, but I feel like most of the time prequels are a mistake. There are always a few that, unfortunately, because those few that do work, make everybody think, well, maybe we could be one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is always, and that is very much
Rogue One, this ain't.
No. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, if you can find little side stories like a Rogue One, or the like thousands of years before where it doesn't matter, kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. Once again, maybe Star Wars does it all right. But
most of the time.
Most of the time. But this is an
They
example.
also fuck up sequels too, so it's fine.
Yeah. Don't worry. They've got their own problems over there at Star Wars. But yeah, that's the thing about this is just there was nothing ever in any of the novel, any of the movie versions that I ever went, now where did Judd Crandall come from?
Like, we have moments in the flashbacks of the Mary Lambert film,
Yep.
of, Judd as a child with, his experience with the dog, as well as what this movie. So Pet Sematary Bloodlines focuses around the story of Timmy Baterman
Yeah.
coming back from the war dead, and then being brought back to life and fucking shit up, and they have to kill him.
Yes.
That is the general conceit of
Which
the
is
film. And that
like,
is one of the things in the flashbacks of the Mary Lambert film that
yeah.
we see. And like Judd, it's stuff that Judd talks about in the book. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing, is I think that a prequel could, detailing those parts of the story could be interesting. Like
Mm.
there is like something to that possibly, but
Right. Yeah.
like, and even moving the time up from World War II to Vietnam because of the setting of the 2019 film.
Yeah.
Um
That's fine. I mean, that
like
makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense. It's also compelling in that way.
Well, and especially the
Uh
idea of a small town that loses somebody in war, even
mhm.
I mean, a bigger part of the devastation of Vietnam in particular, right? Like, I mean, if
Yeah.
anything, that there might be more inherent drama in that you could mine. But I think where I would go with this, and I think maybe where you were going with this, the one of the problems with that is this movie tries to do that plus a million other things.
Yeah, they don't have this, like, the movie does not have the strength of its own conviction
Mm-mm.
to like really dial in on any one thing it's doing, and it demonstrates the weakness of the conviction immediately by having some really unnecessary voiceover recap of the
Yeah,
conceit of the pet cemetery and
yeah,
the pet cemetery, capital P, capital S.
right.
And then, and I this is nitpicky, but like the title card is so strange
Yeah.
for like the tone of the film. It was like giving me Tarantino meets Funny Games,
Yeah,
and
well,
like
I did think that because one of the I do think this movie has huge tonal problems, and I think that's indicative of it. It both wants to be so grim, dark, and serious, but also like a fun horror movie too. And from scene to scene, I can't, because like one of the biggest problems with this too is the last half of this movie, it just completely turns into the most generic run from a killer movie, right? Like the whole end of this movie is just completely, oh God, that thing's gonna kill you! Run away! Run away! Run
yeah.
away! And also, this is first time. This is a directorial debut from Lindsay Anderson Beer, is the filmmaker on this. And look, I don't know, not much budget on this. According to IMDb, this had a let's see, where is this? $11.5 million budget, which actually seems about right, having watched it.
I'm classically bad at like knowing how much movies cost. So yeah, sure. That seems
Low,
that seems about right. That's a lot of money. I don't know. Every time it's like
yeah, it's
$11 million.
but like
Christ, that would change my whole
no, it's
the amount of
crazy.
money that they made for this. They could have
Yeah,
changed someone's life for the
well,
better, but it didn't.
no, it's always the crazy thing about movies where you go like, only 11.5 million, pff, real low. I mean, to any of them, but relative to movies, that is
I know.
extremely low. Yeah, but you can
It's just
make a
bonkers.
lot of good horror is made for like under 10. That was I don't know. I think they've since moved past that, but that was the initial starting place of Blumhouse. Was they never made anything for more than 10. I think they've made a couple, but they still try to keep the budget low. The
Yeah.
problem here is it's exceeding its grasp. This is trying to be weirdly epic. And from what I gather, this went through a number of writers and things, and I think you can feel a lot of the
Yeah.
remnants of this was somebody's idea for a movie, and this was somebody's idea for a movie. Because this has still a writing credit for the guy who wrote Jeff Bueller, who wrote the 2019 remake. But from what I gather, that was a lot of his stuff got changed here, because also Lindsay Anderson Beer has a credit on this as well, who I think did the final pass on it. I'm saying this all to say this movie looks like crap. This movie looks really
Yeah,
bad.
it's
We were so complimentary of how the 2019 movie looked too, which I think really this is clearly a step down.
yeah. Like and another part of the kind of like right off the bat this feeling much much smaller despite being about more people uh was weirdly enough the shot of the burial ground, the aerial shot of the burial ground for
Yeah,
me. Immediately I was like, oh, so like we are meant to really be in the headspace of this is in our world.
right.
Yeah, like there is no doubt that there is no passage that one makes from the real world to wherever this is. Okay, cool,
No,
great.
but also at the same time, there's so much more in the script about the evil that lives there, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the, boy, this stuff. Once again, it's been a while since I've read the book, but they're just making up all kinds of stuff in this movie, right? Am I right? There's like a lot of stuff
Yeah,
that's just whole new mythos for this.
yeah, and they retconned that Judd Crandall's ancestor was the one who built the deadfall, which in this is really just looks like a pile of sticks. It's really unfortunate.
It's very shoddy. Yeah, there's no question. But I bring this up. The reason I bring up Lindy Anderson Beer, who I said this is her directorial debut, maybe she'll prove to do something better down the road. I don't know, but it's like she's coming off of writing. She has one screenwriting credit before this, which is the Netflix teen comedy Sierra Burgess is a Loser. I don't know if anybody saw this. I kind of remember it
I
showing up in my anyway, but it's like, but I let me say, I don't know how she got this job is what I'm trying to figure out,
mm,
because she has nothing in her. I mean, maybe she has some specs or something like that. She's unfortunately attached to something I hope does not happen, which is she wrote a reboot of Sleepy Hollow for Paramount, which don't,
oh
please don't. Oh
yeah
God, don't do that. Um, she's somebody who has she's clearly got a lot of, because she's attached to a lot of things, a lot of IP. She wrote a Short Circuit remake that's in some level of development. She wrote some Star Trek movie that, I mean, they've been trying to make another Star Trek movie.
yeah
She did something like that. She wrote an adaptation of the cartoon series Mask. She wrote a Silver Sable movie, the Spider-Man character. I mean, so she's got a
hmm.
bunch of in development IP things. I find that oh God, a Lord of the Flies, please, God, no. What are you doing? But yeah. Anyway, she's an interesting person in Hollywood who seems to have a lot going on while this being the first movie they've made. It seems like she's somebody who's just been developing things.
Yeah.
Um, and
Hmm. Yeah, not a lot of information about like who she is.
no, she did. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's really bizarre. She has a bizarre career, and I mean I've met people who have been successful screenwriters without anything ever getting produced. So but I don't know how they landed on her for this movie. I think it does speak to how much they didn't have any belief in this movie. They were just like, "Oh, you've never made anything before? You can have Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. That's fine. We don't need any. We don't need it. We don't
Yeah.
need a. We don't need a noted filmmaker at all for this, because who gives a shit? Except for producer Lorenzo de Bontaventura, is the one going like, this is just kicking off a whole bunch of Pet Cemetery connected stuff. And you're like, oh God, please no.
Hmm.
But the creatives involved in considering developing a sequel, which the producers stated the future installments will further explore the demonic entity which causes the horrific events of this franchise. Great.
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing in this movie, is there is such a sense I've never gotten from the Pet Cemetery before and any of the other stuff we've done, is this idea that it calls to you.
Yeah, which
Well, they're trying to build this big mythos, right? Because like
Yeah, right.
as we always do, like the end of this movie is like, it is my solemn duty to protect against the evil of the pet son. And you're like, that doesn't really jibe with the Judd Crandall we met in anything else, right?
Yeah.
The idea that, like, I mean, I always saw Judd Crandall as just a guy who's like, oh, don't go back there, you know?
Right, like it really is like the kind of difference between I don't know. John, stop making me think hard about Pet Sematary Bloodlines.
Well, it does that thing that
Well,
a
'cause,
lot,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it does that thing that a lot of stuff that drives me insane does, and it's a big thing in superhero movies. I remember this about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, right? Where it's like, actually, the spider was made by Peter's father, and it was destined to bite. That's the same thing here, where it's like, oh, my father and his father before him have protected against this. It's like, must everything be someone's destiny? That's the thing that irks me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, God, that's the kind of stuff that this does. That's a frequent prequel problem. Is like, actually, it was all set up from the beginning, and it makes you go like,
Yeah. And like doing a quick run through, like King is not usually guilty of that, except weirdly enough with Doctor Sleep that we
yeah,
we watched last time.
which is really good actually, though. But yeah, but yes,
But like it does a lot of King's stories is like it's just like, wow, this just sort of happened to happen to these folks, and isn't that fucked up?
That's kind of one of the things I love about King's books, right? It's usually just like totally normal people whose issues are, in their marriage and their family and from their childhood or whatever, meeting against sudden appearance of supernatural.
Yeah.
Whereas,
like, there's already stuff happening, and then, oh, god damn it, there's a monster or a ghost.
well, and that is something I thought about in this movie that really is one of the big problems with it is everybody already knows what's up.
Yeah, and there was not exactly a sense that everybody knew. Like, there were people who did. Like, somebody told Judd about it, and somebody had told that guy who told Judd. But, like, no, it wasn't like a town conspiracy. Like,
but except for the Bloodlines.
except for the Bloodline. Like, it was, I don't know. And neither of us are from particularly small towns.
Right.
So this is sort of me talking about out of my ass a little bit. But, like, it seems that in small town stories, like, that if there's a weird thing that everybody kind of knows, but it's more of just like, oh, that's just a thing we don't talk about. It's not like a Bloodlines.
Well, it's not. I mean, because this the further into this movie it gets, and by the time we're calling like the council of people, like when they all meet at the diner or whatever, and it's just Pam Grier comes in having been mauled by an undead dog. It's just like, yeah, fucking another fucking dead dog I had to kill. Man. They just like, oh, there's like once again, this is not a sense of anything I get in the other movies. Is this idea that it's just like. It's this Buffy-esque like Hellmouth, right? Where it's just like right here in this town, there is this portal to somewhere. Although, like we're saying, the movie doesn't really portray that, but there is at least something that contains a spirit of evil, and there are the bloodlines of because when this movie randomly moves to the 1600s, I was not prepared for it to go there at all.
Like. And visually, too. Like, right? If it had just been like we're going through this journal, like, that would have been one thing. But yeah, we straight up are, like, filming shit in supposedly the 1600s. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess these are characters now. They're not.
Yeah. But that also makes me feel... That's for example, when I see the producer talk about, that guy is going, that could be a movie. There's a movie.
But yeah, right? It's like it's gonna fall into the same damn trap that this one did.
Yeah, because it can't get to... It can't get anywhere. Because, like, the whole beginning of this movie is Judd Crandall and his girlfriend, who are both total smoke shows in this. Just the hottest fucking people you've ever seen in your life. And also do not look like people from the 60s. They are very 2023 hotties.
Yeah.
I keep hearing this used in period piece movies now with actors where they go, that's a face that's seen a smartphone. And that is absolutely the case with these two. Jackson White and Natalie Allen Lind are playing Judd and Norma, but they're leaving town. They're going. We're getting
they're
out.
heading out.
And of course,
they're trying desperately to join the Peace Corps.
But of course, we're watching it going, well, obviously that won't happen because we know what happens. But then that also leads to this, like, the town won't let them leave, like on a supernatural level, maybe?
Almost on like there's almost like a dairy thing going on here.
That's what I thought, is like, all right, now it feels like you're bringing in like broad elements from other King things, right? Like,
Yeah.
But yeah,
because it has to be because it can't just be in the Kingiverse, right? We can't just have it be in Ludlow. It has to have the same mechanics as everything else.
Right, exactly. Because when they're driving out of town, and this bird slams into his windshield, but then there's also this really confused me in terms of just a small filmmaking thing, but like, maybe not that small actually, but like the bird hits the windshield and he's like, oh my god, it's the Baterman's dog, and you're like, wait, did you hit a dog or a bird? Oh, wait, no, a bird hit him, and then there was also a dog in front of the car.
There was also a dog there.
What?
What?
Because, yes, the beginning of the movie, we saw... This is another thing, too. This movie begins in such a weird place because it actually speaks to how good Pet Sematary is, right? Because you go, like, look at the way that was built. People arrive, a thing happens, it introduces us into the supernatural. Here, this movie it wants to be a prequel, but it also is going, you already know all this shit. So we can just see David Duchovny burying something at the start of the movie,
right.
and you're like, I know.
That's the thing, is like, it starts with this very slap shot that I bet my life on the fact that it was a studio note or whatever, to be like, we can't just start out with David Duchovny burying a body, which I think would have been a stronger choice.
Especially,
frankly,
if it had just been sort of like an ominous, and you're like, ooh, what's he doing? But no, it has to tell you he's doing it.
That it's Ludlow, and sometimes dead is better.
Oh, and get ready to hear that like 8 times.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
They say Ludlow a lot, too, I noticed.
Yeah.
Like, every 5 minutes, someone is saying Ludlow.
Once again, there is a lot of investment in the IP of this movie, right? Mm-hmm. There is just like, say more things people know. Ludlow. Yeah, which is an interesting thing, because I don't necessarily... because this movie is trying to paint this picture of Pet Sematary being about this town, where I never really saw the town of Ludlow as being inherently supernatural. It was this thing that happened to be in Ludlow. But now they've added this whole backstory about the town is named for the founder of the 1600s who was buried and turned into a camp. And by the way, they're going hard at...
Which seems like a buck wild choice.
Oh, incredible. And the movie trying to justify it by going, well, they called it Ludlow, so they'd never forget. Oh, I did. By the way, I just did a Maine accent, of which there are none in this movie.
Oh, no.
Nobody's even remotely a Mainer in this film for a single second.
No.
Yeah. And if anybody should have been doing... Well, obviously, Judd Crandall should be doing it, for sure. But I thought Judd Crandall's father, because the way they have Henry Thomas dressed is very, like, Maine old man. Mm-hmm. They think he's playing older, right? Like, they seem to be painting him as an older man than he is in real life, I think.
Yeah.
Which
was weird.
It was he really, like I said, he seems, of anyone in the cast, he seems to be the most game, but is also just like the John Travolta Pulp Fiction meme of like, I don't, what do I play?
Barely anything to do.
Yeah, it is like, he's like, I'm here to act. Is there anything? No, okay, nothing. All right, got it. Whereas Duchovny is acutely aware, this is a piece of shit. I mean, I've never... Duchovny's a pretty low-key actor anyway, but I've never seen him this low energy in anything. No, right? Almost from moment one, you're like, Jesus.
I was, when I was actually paying attention, it was kind of trying to play a game of like, are Duchovny's eyes even open right now?
I mean, it is like every line delivery has just like, there's a thing in the dog and the kid who died, and my son is, and then, oh God, I mean, once again, so much. There's so many levels of the bloodlines, I guess, right? There's the connection of the town from the 1600s, and then the people protecting the town are the descendants of those people, right?
That seems to be the implication.
I have a lot of questions about Pam Grier's presence in that. Then, which
That's true because, as we know from the film adaptations and
I mean, there's
Stephen King's work himself,
yeah,
one black family in Maine.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the only ones we're allowed to have.
It just seems
one at a
very,
time.
yeah. I don't know. There's just like, I don't know. There seems like, especially 1969 Maine, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's great that you have inclusion in this movie, but you've now created a scenario where it's like, you kind of need to actually explain it to me, because that would be a thing.
Yeah,
Because it's
and
1969 Maine, which I know it's not the
it
same as like
kind of,
but also, I was gonna say it's not the same as like 1969 Alabama, but it would actually make more sense for there to be black people in Alabama in 1969 than one. Literally, she's the only black person in this town, and she's like a big deal and is part of the Bloodlines or whatever.
yeah.
I have so many questions.
Yeah,
But
it's
that's
like it's one of those running into one of those like if they made a Pet Cemetery Bloodlines with all white people in it, like that would be.
yes, that would that yes.
I'm trying to word this because I don't want to be like, oh, woke culture would like be so pissed off about.
No,
But
like I
like,
said, the impulse is right, but you just that there was an opportunity to actually make that part of the plot,
yeah,
and instead it further adds to this thing we were joking at the beginning, that this never feels like 1969 to me. So the fact that there's just a black woman in a position of prominence in 1969 Maine and is maybe connected to the actual founding of the town somehow. Wait a minute, I need a lot answered.
like in attempting to be inclusive, it becomes tokenizing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a weird way where they're just, yeah, because it does feel like a studio note. And look, I love Pam Grier. She has nothing to fucking do in this movie at all.
No, much like everybody else.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's a total waste of her. But the thing is, though, all the like really good older actors are wasted. All the young people are equally wasted because there's no part for anyone to play. The main guy in this movie is so boring, but I have seen him be charming in other stuff. There's just nothing here. What is there to play in this Judd Crandall? He wants to, and this is what I'm talking about with where I was getting to is like the layers of this thing. So you have this like founders of the town, their descendants. Then we have the young people who all were best friends but had a falling out. So that's like, there's so many layers of mythos and town history. And you have 87 minutes of screen time, man. You gotta pick a lane here. And that's one of the, because like when we get into the whole thing about he and Norma are leaving Ludlow to go join the Peace Corps, which is because the whole thing is he never gets drafted. All Duchovny's character is just like, you ever wonder why you never got drafted?
God never called a Crandall's name, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go be over here.
Yeah.
I'll be in my trailer if anyone needs me. Yeah, the joke I used to do on the action shelf, and this is that case where you can actually see Duchovny's always on his way to leave the set, any of his scenes.
Yeah.
He's always literally got one foot out going like, are you going to need any more from me today, or can I just go?
Can I just go?
I have to go to a convention somewhere and sign autographs. Yeah, so you get that whole thing. So, but then Judd, so we find out that his father has been paying off a doctor to say that he can't serve without Judd knowing that?
Yeah. So the other thing that is like such a non-thing in this because they're trying to do so much at once, despite it being like it was kind of the main thing, main thing, in of the Timmy Baterman story in
Right.
the novel is that Timmy Baterman's the one who tells Judd
Right.
because whatever thing that possesses people when they come out, and specifically in Timmy Baterman's case, would like just shuffle around town, up and down Main Street, just telling people's secrets to each other.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too, is I never got the sense that the Timmy Baterman story was like a horror story in this capacity, like this, where he came back and started just murdering everybody.
That's such a good question. I'm trying to remember. I think he may have hurt somebody. I don't know if he specifically killed anyone, but like it got to a point I think where he started to become violent, and that's why everyone was like, okay, the him telling tales out of school is one thing,
Right.
but I could be wrong too. It's also been a minute since I've read Pet
It
Sematary, and
but once again, I'm mainly remembering
mainly.
mainly, yeah.
Sorry,
We're gonna
I'm
need.
trying to have some. I'm trying to make my own fun here.
Well, because this movie is no fun. This movie refuses to have fun.
Yeah.
But while at the same time being very silly. It's one of the things I hate in horror movies. Super grim horror movies that refuse to acknowledge that they're actually quite silly. Oh, it drives me up the wall. It's like,
Yeah.
just be schlock at a certain point. I would have much, like we were talking about before, I have much more fun watching Pet Sematary 2, which is just campy and crazy. At least that's like, what is going on here? Whereas this is just boring.
Yeah.
But the thing about I'm picturing the Mary Lambert movie once again, where the what they show of the Timmy Baterman is just like he's just not right, and you see that people are driving by his house or he's walking down the street, and people are like, "What the fuck is wrong with that guy?" It's not this where he is not only undead but a straight up supervillain. Right? Like,
Oh yeah.
at a certain point when he's making lists of the people he's gonna murder and stuff too, and I just go like, man, we've seen more than our share of undead people come out of the Pet Cemetery these days on the show, and this guy is the most determined and like, I gotta kill the following people here, and and then also part of his thing is maybe making more undead people, which is kind of a new impulse. I mean, well, I guess the 2019
Yeah.
movie did do that, right? If you're coming from that, it was the thing about the family, which I did like in that movie.
Right.
But here, it does also feel like, even though it's a prequel, it feels like the sequel thing where it's like, this time, we got 2 undead killers. And same thing with also the, we had an evil cat, now we got an evil dog.
And again, barely.
Yeah. And also still an evil dog, which is kind of another King thing because of Cujo. So, we're doing it all, man. It really does feel, this is such a shameful, like, you should love this, nerds. Eat it up. It's got all your favorite ingredients.
Look at it's all the stuff you like.
It is that thing that I hate. But yeah, it has a lot of that sort of. So yeah, they're adding all this stuff to it. But yes, the Timmy Bader in this, the whole thing is Timmy Baterman went to Vietnam, got killed. When his body came back, his dad, David Duchovny, buried him in the sour earth, and he's come back as evil. And Duchovny not only is his performance brilliant, but his character. This is one of the things I struggle. I was telling you, I was listening to another podcast and I was reading through because his character's motivations are so weird. Like, I understand the like, I have to get my son back, consequences be damned. That is the center of any Pet Sematary story, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. It went bad for other people, but I have to try to get this person I love back. But
Yeah.
his turning point to where in the movie he decides is like, all right, yeah, no, now it's gone too far. is really
Yeah,
interesting because he's letting a
like
lot
literally,
slide.
it seemed like I looked up at one point because I was darning my socks, which was way more interesting than this movie.
Yeah.
I looked up at one point, and David Duchovny was like, "Yes, we have to go." Like with a shotgun in hand, was like, "Yep, everybody, let's go kill Timmy." And I was like, I
Uh,
missed when that happened. I guess sure.
it kind of doesn't happen. It is kind of it is basically the scene is just like, hey man, come on, your son's an evil zombie, right? And he's like, yeah,
Damn,
okay,
guess you right.
yeah, but
What is Judd's dad's name?
oh Dan, right? Isn't it Dan Crandall?
Dan.
Yeah,
Dan. Uh,
yeah, Dan Crandall, yeah.
sorry, Bill. I think we're gonna have to kill this guy. Oh, damn.
Yeah, it does have it. That's pretty much all it is. Like that is the thing we were talking about. Is I kept going, did I miss some stuff? I better no. I don't know if this is, and it probably a bit of column A, column B on this. I don't know if I'm looking at lazy writing or studio cutting. It's probably both, right?
Yeah,
Because
probably a bit of both.
I don't. Something tells me they did not shoot an 87-minute movie. Something tells me it was cut down to the. Nobody sets out. There's probably like a 2-hour cut of this thing, right? Which I'm sure is intolerable because it's already super boring at 87 minutes. But this screams of when we were gonna make a theatrical film. You know what? Make it as short as possible. Throw it on the streaming service. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Because Jesus, this thing. Oh, sorry. I just looked at the poster for it again as I pull up the IMDb. All right, which heavily focuses on the animal masks, which is the movie. Well, this opens up the whole door of the Micmac stuff, right?
Yeah, like right. This is again the kind of like should we really be going all in on Pet Sematary in 2023? Probably not.
Right.
Because we now have to contend with the burial trope or the burial ground trope.
Because the 2019 movie was kind of we talked about kind of tried to
obfuscate.
Yeah, it just sort of was
bit.
like, yeah, there's like an American connection, but that's not the main focus. So let's just kind of veer around it and tell our story.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
Especially
when they name drop a creature that like
yeah
I have seen like stuff from like indigenous like folks of Algonquin descent and Micmac of being like, hey, maybe like this is like a thing.
Yeah.
And like it just and like there's a lot of stuff about that creature being used as like a shorthand for horror, and it like kind of coming across as like, oh, Native Americans are scary kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like
well, I think I was gonna say I think the thing that the difference between the two is the 2019 movie, by kind of sidestepping it in the moment, doesn't make you feel so uncomfortable. It's more in retrospect that you go like, oh, but they still kind of did that. This one though really makes you go like, because this is trying so hard to go, no, we're gonna cast a lot of native actors, we're gonna this is them going, we're gonna try to fix it. I think the filmmakers of this thought, we're gonna fix the king problems here, and instead they've just opened themselves up to new problems because number one, this movie, you want to do a Pet Sematary Bloodlines, make it all about indigenous people. And there may be something there. Maybe. Once again.
Maybe.
But it's no, maybe don't touch it. I agree, but it's the same problem with all of this. They've thrown all of this into one big pot and gone, and also here's some Native American representation for you. But it's very cynically done, I should say.
Yes. And I was trying to find some kind of like specific response to that in this movie, but it does kind of seem like nobody had the time to like care about this that much. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So
yeah, well,
I don't know, man.
Well, it feels like we talked about that. This has probably went through a lot of drafts, and it feels like none of those drafts were too interested in the Micmac side of it, right? Like, really, not really. It's like, we should do something about that. Yeah, I don't know what that is. And so what it comes to is basically there are two characters, right? Mm-hmm. Manny and Donna, who are brother and sister, who are of, I guess, Micmac descendancy.
Right. Again, the
Maybe?
movie is not really interesting. It's so strange, like the it's so in on the bloodlines thing, and I don't think that there's any like Manny and Donna don't come into that conversation at all, I don't think.
No.
Except for except for Manny being in the church to translate
Yes,
the
yes.
diary.
Which
Again,
falls
very
into
tokenizing.
exactly falls into classic stereotype of an indigenous character in a genre thing. And once again, these are Forrest Goodluck, who plays Manny in this, really good actor. If anybody's
Yeah.
he was in The Revenant. He was DiCaprio's son in The Revenant, and I just saw him on Lawman, Bass Reeves, which was a Paramount show, which is fucking great, and he rules in. And I mean, a lot of stuff. He's in How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which is great. So once again, everybody here, I think, is capable of giving good performances. And actually, Manny gets the cool something the other podcast I was listening to, which was not Just King Things, but this is our mention of Just King Things. If we don't mention it later on, there you go. But they brought up is Manny actually takes out both of the undead characters.
That's true.
He is the most badass character in the movie for not being any kind of character. Oh, the destruction of, which leads me to the new thing this movie introduces, which you gotta aim for the eyes. Where did that come from?
Completely nonsensical. Like, why? And they don't give any sort of like reasoning, and it's just something. It's
That's
just
the
something
first,
to
and
be
that's the
something.
first thing I had to. Once again, I had to look. Is that anything? Nope. Yeah, of course. That's from nothing to do with Pet Sematary. That screams of somebody going, well, you got to do like a zombie thing, right? You got to have like a,
Yeah.
what's our zombie thing? Well, you aim for the eyes. Okay. Sure. I guess. Because it seems like in every other Pet Cemetery thing I can think of, they've come back, but they will still just die if you kill them, right? Like they're not invulnerable in any kind of way.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Also, and the other thing about Manny and Donna, about Forrest Goodluck and Isabella LeBlanc,
Yeah.
is like the Forrest Goodluck is part of the oh my goodness, the Dene, Dene Mandan, Hidatsa, and Tsimshian tribes.
Yeah.
In kind of the overall Navajo, and Isabella LeBlanc is part of the Dakota people, the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate.
Oh.
And it's like, but so they can just, but they're indigenous, so they could just be anybody indigenous.
Oh yeah. Well, that's Hollywood, baby. That's if you're Asian, you can be from any Asian country. That's it's unfortunate. There's no question about that. Because whatever, man. But also, we're gonna do that, and then also want you to pat us on the back for it, because look.
Yeah.
These would have been white people once upon a time, so it's almost just like be happy with whatever you get, folks.
Or Greek people. Who knows?
A slightly dark-skinned guy of some sort. No, it's not great. It's not great, and like we talked about, their characters.
But they're both great actors.
They
so
are.
They should be getting more work.
They should be getting more work, and once again, there's like with everybody, I can see a kernel of something or brief moments where you're like, oh, these people have some charisma. Isabella LeBlanc, which you mentioned, also is on True Detective right now.
Yeah. So,
once again, good. I'm glad they're getting stuff. By the way, the introductory scene of them with the bleeding sunflowers, what is that shit at all? Does that ever come back?
No, because, I think the implication was that Timmy was watching them hanging out.
Yeah,
but again, unclear.
Yeah, it just because they set up in one of their first scenes together. Also, their brother and sister, because the amount of time she goes, "I as your sister."
Oh, God, right? Like the classic Hollywood. This is how siblings act, right?
Listen to me, as your big sister. I need to tell you, God, That's if I see
Siblings
that.
always call each other,
Yeah.
"Hey brother" and
Yeah.
"Hey sister."
Otherwise, how that you'll be confused. You won't even know who the person
Yeah.
is. That is a instant like red flag of a bad screenplay to me. If somebody says something like that, or same thing with like, listen to your father. All right, I'm going to tell you what it is. And I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
In fact, Henry Thomas might have that line for all I know
I
in this thing. He
yeah.
must. And then, boy, you want to talk about somebody wasting this. Samantha Mathis as Judd's mother. Nothing to do in this.
I think she has like 4 lines in the whole
And
thing.
all of it is, I'm worried about Judd.
Yeah.
Don't go away, son. I love my son. He could be in danger.
This
Like,
is my son. I love
yeah.
him.
By the way, if you're a Meet the Monsters listener, you may have heard us talk about Samantha Mathis in the very unfortunate 2004 Salem's Lot miniseries. Yeah, which she was the what's the main woman in that's name? Susan Norton.
Susan, yeah.
Yeah, Susan Norton. She played in that, and we were not thrilled with that portrayal. No offense. I love Samantha Mathis. I mean, once again, as a kid who didn't know from good movies, she was. What was she Princess Peach, or who was she in? She's in the fucking
Oh,
Mario Brothers movie. I don't know if she was.
yeah.
Yeah, Daisy. Sorry, she's Daisy in that.
She's Daisy.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I felt that memory hit me.
I mean, she was a big deal, like leading lady in the late '80s, early '90s. So a lot of movies I saw as a kid, she was in. But yeah, just once again, you just go like, well, this could have been anybody. Who cares? And then the end of the movie is basically just he's gonna like, yeah, no, I guess I'll take care of mom because dad died. Oh, Henry Thomas's death is so stupid too, because if he's the guy protecting the town from the evil, and he knows, because they say it about 1 billion times, you got to aim for the eyes. The fact that he doesn't know that he hasn't killed zombie Donna, and
Yeah.
he shoots her, and then he's like, "Don't worry, let me turn my back to her," and then he starts the sometimes dead is, and then he gets impaled.
It's just like,
It's like a script going, as the mentor character, it is my time to die now.
yeah, which it could have. Yeah, again, right? We're not here to fix the movie. We're not here to fix the movie.
No.
Points at myself in the mirror. You're not here to fix the movie.
Well, you'll drive yourself insane. Yeah, it's for our own good that we don't try to fix the movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's just dumb.
It's just dumb. It's like this whole movie is dumb. That's the other thing too, is this movie's not even like, it's not even bad enough to be like, what a huge piece of shit. It just is so forgettable and stupid in places. Like, you talk about, like, yeah, I will just forget this movie. Years from now, someone will come to us and it'll be like, oh, right, yeah, didn't we talk about that on a podcast? There was a fucking Pet Sematary prequel. Why did they do that?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be.
Well, I'll never forget it because I have to add it to the fucking list now.
That's right. It's going to sit on the list. But it really is just like,
It's a data point.
the last jump scare that is just the truck that is totally meant to be for people like us to go like, because the the highway's coming. Yeah.
Stay the fuck out of Ludlow.
Oh.
Brrr. Like,
I couldn't believe that because he does as he takes up his father's position of sitting out on the porch, which I love the idea that now Judd on the porch is meant to be like his superhero pose.
like,
Must we mythologize everything? Must we turn everything into iconography?
well, I mean, it's part of the IP, John.
Well, that's it exactly. That's the thinking here.
Judd sits on the porch not just because it's a thing that old men do. Now it's because.
Yeah.
It's because.
But
He has
then
to keep an eye on stuff.
But then it really, once again, if you're really going to try to, which you shouldn't because this movie just shouldn't exist, but if you're really going to try to make this match up with that 2019 movie, then you're like, well, then why does he bury that fucking cat? Like,
Why does he bury the fucking cat?
like, it's one thing in that movie to be like, the way Lithgow plays, as we talk about, is like, I know I shouldn't, but this little girl means a lot to me. And Whereas now it's if you're taking into this is meant to be that Jed. Oh, so he goes insane briefly for like.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it's meant to be the same house, even, I think is what they're implying.
Definitely.
Wow, somebody sure planted a bunch of fucking trees like the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not the same area.
Where was this shot? Because this is not at all. Oh, we're in Quebec. We're in Montreal.
Couldn't find trees in Montreal, I guess.
No, yeah, it is. It is. Well, why did I even have to look? Of course, it was going to be Canada for tax reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, fine. Where did the other one shoot?
Georgia, I think.
Yeah, and it has that look. I think we talked
Yeah.
about it looking kind of southern. So yeah, no, it doesn't. It just there's a lot of just weird choices in this movie.
Weird choices.
Weird choices, and I'm sure a lot of cost saving stuff as we've talked about. Oh man, I don't know that I have much more to say about this movie. It's really bad.
No.
It's pretty
Yeah.
bad.
In and out. Didn't even take us 84 minutes.
Let me briefly let's see. Was there any other Stephen King stuff that? Well, you can go and listen to our Mr. Harrigan's
Okay.
reviews. Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
let's play a quick game. What's worse, this or Mr. Harrigan's phone? I don't know.
Oh God! I mean, they both suffer from just totally unnecessary and boring adaptations.
Okay. I will say,
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe I'm about to do this.
Uh-oh.
This is truly.
Wait, is there going to be something
truly
remotely
the finale,
complimentary
a
about?
finale-worthy
Yeah.
revelation.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Harrigan's phone is better than this.
I think you might be right. It's certainly. I mean, script, pacing, whatever. It is a more competently made movie.
It's a more competently made movie. It, despite also being boring as all hell, it did hold my attention for the entirety of it.
Yes. Well, I'm looking. I want to see. Yes, John Lee Hancock made Mr. Harrigan's Phone, who is like a real veteran director. So at least there is like an assured hand behind it, as opposed to this is somebody who's never directed a movie before. So yes, there is. It. I never quite know how to word this, but like it feels more like a movie. And like it's it's like a movie.
That classic Harry Styles quote. The thing I love about this movie, it's a movie.
It's back to that. Yeah. I just want to briefly touch on what else came out. There's not much here. You have seen it. We were talking about this, I think, off mic. I have yet to watch The Boogeyman, but you said The Boogeyman not bad.
Boogeyman had some interesting stuff. To it.
Yeah.
I think what I said off mic is like there's a couple of like things in there that like I don't really like in horror movies, like a kid being bullied for having a dead mom.
Yeah.
And
because
there's like the final, it's not necessarily a jump scare, but it is kind of like is the boogeyman really gone? Which I don't love.
No.
But it's got some interesting stuff in it.
Yeah, I said the trailer to that looked kind of interesting. The Firestarter remake, which I did see, and I have the exact same opinion about that as this movie. I feel like the quality is exactly the same. It is number one, trying to turn Firestarter into a franchise. It has a totally open-ended sequel setup ending, and it also attempts to fix the indigenous stuff while opening up a whole new world of problems. It's that thing where it's like, it is that.
Yeah, maybe we just shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
We just shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of others. Why doesn't somebody do the Institute? If you want King with powers, nobody's after the Institute.
Yeah, if you want to do, because like, right, like that was clearly the point, because that the Institute is like the thing from Firestarter, right. So clearly the mode there was like, people know what this is, and we want to do a thing about the thing that's in it, but for some reason we have to like do an adaptation of the actual thing, instead of focusing on the Institute, the thing we actually want to do. And now I'm assuming Peacock isn't like all in on the Institute.
Right, but I think somebody is. I think somebody has the rights to that, and I have heard, and I
Okay.
think that would be developing that as a series, and that would lend itself to being a series. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Institute is that thing once again where you're going like,
Because
that's what you want to do. That is right for adaptation. I feel like.
I feel like there's also another King story though that is more focused on the actual Institute about
Because there's certainly
a psychic kid. Oh God, which one
well,
was that?
King writing about a psychic kid. Come on.
I know which one.
But I do think
It
because
should just be called the Institute.
well, because there's
Yeah.
they did the novel The Institute,
Yeah.
which is about a bunch of the kids. Like yeah.
Yeah. So why didn't they just adapt
That's
that?
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, just adapt that. That's the thing that should just be adapted. Is that
Anyway.
because there's some seeding of the Institute in Carrie even, right? Like the whole thing
Yeah.
about the White Commission, and I mean, you could almost follow like the problem is with this stuff, right? Is who has the rights to what, right? Firestarter is a separate IP than the Institute. It would be nice if all the King stuff could be under one roof. All right, let's finish up Bloodlines, and then we'll talk about the future of King adaptations at the end here. By the way, a horrible tagline for Pet Sematary Bloodlines is "Death is different here."
Yeah.
Ugh.
Doesn't quite hit the same as Sometimes Dead is Better, but they
No.
probably couldn't do that twice.
Oh, and also, once again, talking about the poster, that led to the Micmac stuff I was saying, but all the stuff with the animal mass is so tossed in and unnecessary to connect
Such
with
an
2019.
afterthought.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, yeah. Like the sister, Donna is making animal mass, and they go, it protects us against it. It never comes back in any way or matters at all. So... But they're just like, we have to explain those masks from the 2019 movie, to which I would also go, you don't, actually. That's okay.
I don't think you do.
They were just creepy. That's fine. You know?
Yeah.
But
Kids do weird shit.
Yeah, kids do weird shit. Well, I know what you're wondering, though, is what did Uncle Stevie think of this movie, though?
Did Uncle Steve even know about it?
Uncle Stevie did know about it because I believe he tweeted about it. We know he loves.
Oh, wow. He does love to tweet.
Yeah, does he ever? Yeah. Uncle Stevie, look, the man's been sober for a long time, but he may have fallen off the wagon if this was his reaction to it, is what I'll say. Because I don't agree with Uncle Stevie on this. All right, here's Uncle Stevie's tweet about the movie. Bloodlines. In the book, this is the story Judd Crandall tells Louis Creed to try and dissuade him from using the Pet Sematary. The screenplay takes a few liberties, but it's a fine story. David Duchovny is excellent. The secret, as always, is caring about the characters. What movie did Uncle Stevie see? / imagine? Because what? Number one, this is the worst Duchovny performance I've seen in anything. The screenplay is a mess. It's not a fine story. And I didn't care about a single character, including Judd Crandall, a character I already know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to...
Because that was my only...
Did he tweet it on April 1st?
he tweeted it... oh, no, that'd be great. He tweeted September 12th, right before this came out. So, yeah. Jesus. I don't know, man. You know what? He's gotten softer in his old age. I feel like young Stephen King would have fucking hated this movie and torn it apart.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's better, honestly. The angry young Stephen King or this new guy's like, hey, man, they make movies based on my stuff. Isn't that cool?
Listen, the check's cleared, so this one's good.
It's neat they made a movie based on my book. It really does seem to be. Okay. All right. Oh, God, here we go. Let's talk about highs and lows. Okay. Well, we'll start with the lows because we're
No, please start with the highs.
Please start with the highs? All right.
The lows I will be more on board with.
Okay. All right. We'll start with the highs. Let's see. There are... Oh, God, there's more. I thought there was just one. There are 5 9-star reviews. No 10 stars. But 5 people gave this 9 stars. Oh, Jesus.
And
okay.
it's terrible because only 20 people watched this, so that's
I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure it did very well when it first came out, just because people were like, oh, Bloodlines, or Pet Sematary showed up on my Paramount thing. No, I didn't know they made a new Pet Sematary. Anyway, which is all they were counting on, right? That's the whole idea behind AP. Okay. This comes to us from Stever B. Stever B. Yeah.
Steve, I know this is you again.
No, it's Steve. It's Stephen B. King, a different guy. But it's an alternate reality Stephen King. All right.
There is a guy whose name is Stephen King, and he writes under Stephen whatever his.
Oh God, yeah, wow. I would not want to be that guy. Anyway, all right, here we go. Title of the review is "Liked it a lot." All the hate reviews here are disappointing and also untrue. I'm not sure what people expected, but I got exactly what I expected, so I'm happy with it. I love expansions of stories that I know well, and this one is another one that is well written, well acted, and is unbelievably well done for a first feature from this director. Boy, I got problems already here. It seems as though reviewers these days are all frustrated filmmakers. Boy, he's coming after me on that one. And never really consider anything in the actual film they're watching, but what they think it should have been and not what it is. That is not the way to watch films. In fact, it's insulting to everyone who works on the films being reviewed from this viewpoint. Film criticism is fine, but knocking a film because it didn't meet preconceived notions is not. A movie is not an omelet you order at a diner. With all that said, Pet Sematary Bloodlines is a fine film in the Pet Sematary saga. By the way, Paramount is thrilled this person used the term Pet Sematary saga.
Oh, yeah.
I did finally learn that it's a prequel to the 2019 remake, so that Judd Crandall's age in this film made a bit more sense. There are a few things that seem misedited, especially towards the end, but for my money, seeing David Duchovny, Henry Thomas, and Pam Grier in the same film are worth the price of admission. Dude, I too love all three of those actors, but this is some of the worst work any of them have done. If you haven't decided what Pet Sematary Bloodlines is supposed to be, according to your own whims, it's highly recommended. 9 out of 10 stars.
Okay.
I went in with I think I viewed this fairly. I went in going, okay, people don't like it, but people don't like a lot of stuff. Let's give it a shot. I think I went in fair. I was excited to see Duchovny. I don't think I went in going, oh Jesus, this is gonna stink. I was ready to be surprised.
Especially because I went into the 2019 remake being a little like, I didn't see this, and I, probably am going to come out of this being like, it's fine that I didn't see it. But no, I was pleasantly surprised by
It's pretty good.
Pet Sematary remake.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, I better give this a shot too, because...
Well, that really hurts this, right? By connecting it to that movie, this thing really is not good, right? Like, I mean, the filmmaking is a noticeable step down. The acting is a noticeable step down. This person, let's go over to somebody who probably does agree with us. Vivek Maru, 45, I hope I'm saying that right, titles their review, "It's so bad it makes Pet Sematary 2 look like a masterpiece."
Hey, that's where we are.
That's it, exactly. Both the original Pet Sematary and its sequel were directed by Mary Lambert. Pet Sematary was the first Stephen King horror film I had seen in the late 80s. Stephen King would later become my best bet for horror movies throughout my teen years. I have seen most of the film adaptations of his books. There are too many films based on his works to write them all down here. Yes, agreed.
That is true.
Pet Sematary was a special movie for me because it concerned a burial ground that brought the dead back to life. It was later revealed as a native Micmac burial ground that was cursed, mainly pet. Sorry, no human being was ever allowed to. Yeah. Don't give plot descriptions in your reviews, please. In the first movie, Louis Creed's dead son was buried in the burial ground located. Stop it. Sorry. All right, let's get down to verdict. Boring. Never understood anything I just watched. Too many unnecessary characters. Boy, this speaks to a 90s kid. A bogus script to boot. Totally bogus, dude. However, the film, as per norm, is filled with gory scenes that gives it its trademark. And then goes on to recommend a bunch of other better Stephen King movies. Thank you, Stephen King, for giving joy to a boy growing up watching your great movies. 1 out of 10 stars. Surprise, surprise.
1 out of 10
Actually, I'm
stars.
glad they brought up the gore, because I was thinking about this. It's like, yeah, they've definitely cranked up the blood, but it's even that stuff's boring in this. All the gory stuff is boring.
Yeah, and it was definitely attempting to, well, okay. It seemed like the point was for it to be used as horror, and then in a less boring movie, it would have been like, I would have been like, oh, this is shock value. Like, this is,
Right.
they don't understand horror. But the movie is so boring that even the gore is like not really like
Yeah.
interesting.
No, that's very much how I felt about it. I'm somebody who certainly, once again, am known as the gore hound overrun, but I still look for it to be like well done and in the context of a thing. I can definitely, we've seen enough horror movies where I can tell when it's like you're upping the gore. You either up the gore or the sex to try to make up for the fact that you have no script. But this doesn't even feel that, because even the gore is like, eh,
Yeah. Yeah. And the reactions to the gore are so down, like so nothing. Like even when Norma gets viciously attacked by a dog, like Judd is very much like, "Oh shit. Oh no. Timmy, what are you doing?" It's like there's just no sense of urgency.
Yes, that's a big problem with the movie. Is everybody's kind of on Ambien. I think Duchovny was handing out his Ambien prescription to people, because everybody hears. Yeah, that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that scene where Norma's arm is like ripped apart, and it's just like, hey man, that's not cool.
Yeah, like
We should probably go to the hospital.
We should probably go to. I'm gonna get you to the hospital, Timmy.
Yeah,
Not cool. Not cool, dude.
Also, my favorite Samantha Mathis line is, Norma got chewed up by a dog? I should bake her a pie. We get it. It's small town America.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. I do want to touch on, as we wrap up this season, and I'll talk about what's going to be next season on the show. Don't worry, folks. If I haven't already said it, I don't know. But I do want to talk about just what the future of Stephen King adaptations looks like here. So these are the in development Stephen King works. The already finished, and actually, as of the recording of this, just announced, they don't have a release date, but it is coming to HBO Max, Salem's Lot movie, which some people are like, oh, it's not coming to theaters. I'm like, dude, it's Warner Brothers. I'm glad they didn't just shelve it and take the tax break on it or whatever. God, just the fact we could see it at all. And I mean, take it with a grain of salt after we just read his opinions of this, but King is a big fan of that movie, so.
Yeah, right. Now I'm like,
I don't know, Uncle Stevie. Yeah. Who knows, man?
Who knows?
Billy Summers, his crime novel that came out in 2021, is being turned into a movie. One I am interested in, Brian Fuller is adapting Christine again, which I think could be interesting. We've mentioned a couple times that Mike Flanagan is back in the Stephen King adaptation field with The Life of Chuck, which has a great cast. Someone's doing Elevation, which I don't know that I've ever actually read. I don't think I have either. It's somewhat recent, 2018 novel. Yeah, I don't know that one offhand. Elevation. It's one of his shorter ones. He put out a couple of those like little hardcover, because there's also the revival, his like Frankenstein kind of one that came out. They're closer to novellas. They're sort of in that Langoliers length, but he's no longer closer
to the Langoliers length. A novel.
Yeah. Closer to the Langoliers length, where they are shorter novels. Yeah, I guess they'd be closer to novellas. Fairy Tale, one of his most recent books, also is being developed by Paul Greengrass. From a Buick 8 is being turned into a movie.
Okay.
Which I've actually never read that one. So, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, that's an interesting one to adapt.
Yeah. Could be interesting, though.
Yeah, Lynn Ramsey's doing it, who's a very good filmmaker, so I would be curious to see what she does with it.
Makes sense with the kind of like I can see the path from like how successful Yellow Jackets is to an adaptation of The Girl Who Loved Tom
Girl
Gordon.
Lost in the Woods, yeah, kind of thing, and that aesthetic could work. And like I said, at least that's the kind of thing where I'm like, okay, material, but Lynn Ramsey, a filmmaker who, at the very least, if I don't love all of her stuff, always makes very interesting and kind of unusual movies. She's kind of a good fit for that because she's good with non-traditional narratives, let's say, that aren't just point A to point B stories. So I enjoy her work. The Long Walk is finally coming to the screen. That's one that's been around.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because the director of The Long Walk is the director of
Hunger
the
Games.
Hunger Games movies,
Francis
Water for
Lawrence.
Elephants, and Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy music video.
Yeah. And I Am Legend also from that guy.
And
too.
I Am Legend. Yes.
Yeah. So
That's just the funniest. That's just the funniest three in combination.
absolutely.
To me.
Because they're like, what's that movie gonna look like?
I'm very excited though.
Well, The Long Walk is one of those that I'm actually surprised they haven't done. You know, I mean, it's like kind of a,
Yeah.
so that should be interesting. I don't know Throttle. It's another novella, apparently.
Either.
Oh, it's a one of the ones he wrote with Joe Hill, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I don't know what's happening with that, but Warner Brothers is doing that. And the one I'm most intrigued about is Edgar Wright is doing The Running Man.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, more so than it being another Running Man, it's just an Edgar Wright like sci-fi action thing. Seems like it could be really cool. And The Running Man, I always is a thing that you could the it's such a broad thing that you could totally like the because I love the Schwarzenegger movie, which is very of its moment, but you can totally imagine a completely different Running Man being made now.
Absolutely.
So those are what's coming from that, and of course, I'm sure a million other fucking TV shows and stuff. Sleeping Beauties is apparently being made into a show. So, and 18 more Children of the Corn movies, I'm sure.
Probably.
Of course, the fun doesn't stop with the Stephen King here. You want to head over to our Patreon page because we do have our IP Squad related cases episodes there about King specifically created for the Screenworks, where you can hear Eliott and I talk about those. So head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. But people want to know what's coming next on the show because this is the end of this season. Don't worry, you're not going to have to wait. It'll just start up. The seasons are just broken by topics. There's no long waits here. So we're jumping in next week with a whole new season devoted to a different kind of adaptation. Film adaptations of pulp and comic strip characters. Pulp and comic strip heroes specifically. I say that because there was a lot of discussion going into this about we could be at it forever if we started doing all the adaptations of Annie or something like that. So we don't consider they need to be some sort of more action-y kind of hero character.
And as we all know, Annie is an anti-hero at best.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Annie is an anti-hero. But also we're not doing like all the Blondie movies or the Peanuts movies and stuff like that. We're sort of doing those and we're kicking things off with it's so interesting to go from 2023's Pet Sematary Bloodlines to next week on the show. We're going to leap all the way back to 1954 for the adaptation of the Prince Valiant comic strip. Oh. Yes, and we're going to have new co-hosts there. We affectionately call them the Jones Boys around here, and they are the buddy cop duo of the IP Squad. Totally mismatched partners. Brendan Jones and Robin Jones will be doing that. Eliott, you'll be back with us for future seasons as well. We've already talked about some of the things we're going to do going forward. I am looking forward to at some point doing this same approach to the works of Michael Crichton. I know is one I want to bring on.
We talked about that a lot during this season.
Actually. I've already looked into like what those would be and stuff like that. And he's interesting because he, much more than King, goes back and forth between writing original movies and novels. So it'll be a different approach for sure. He, much more than King, seemed to really embrace film as a medium, whereas King, as we've talked about, seems quite baffled by it. Yeah. But yes, that is going to do it. Until next week, this whole section of the case is closed.
Hi. My name is Stephen King. I'm going to scare the hell out of you, and that's a promise.